My name is Carol Jensen. I'm 60 years old, and 3 days ago, I buried my husband of 38 years in the rain-soaked ground of Riverside Cemetery in Portland, Oregon. What I didn't bury was my dignity. They tried to take that too. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. We'd love to know how far our stories are going. The moment happened at 2:47 p.m., right after Father Morrison finished the final prayer. I was standing alone by the casket, Paul's casket, the man I'd made lunch for at 6 a.m. every single morning for 13,970 days, when she walked up. Jennifer Cole, 36 years old, personal trainer, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension, and around her neck, gleaming against her tanned skin, was my pearl necklace, the one Paul gave me for our 30th anniversary in 2015, the one I thought I'd lost 2 years ago. She walked right past me like I was a coat rack, went straight to my son Mark, and kissed him on the cheek. Not a polite peck, a slow, deliberate kiss that lasted 3 full seconds while 47 people watched in silence. Then she said it. "Your father called me the wife he always wanted." Her voice was soft, almost tender, like she was sharing a beautiful secret. Mark, my only son, the boy I'd rocked through chickenpox and driven to soccer practice and paid $87,000 in college tuition for, smiled. He smiled, and then he took her hand. Nobody said anything. My sister Evelyn looked at the ground. My daughter-in-law Rebecca checked her phone. The other mourners suddenly found the wet grass fascinating. I stood there, 5 feet from my husband's casket, invisible. The blue plastic lunch container flashed in my mind. The same one I'd used for 38 years, filling it with turkey sandwiches and apple slices, and little notes that said, "Have a good day." Paul stopped reading the notes around 2016. I kept writing them anyway. 13,870 days. That's how many times I woke up at 5:30 a.m., made his coffee exactly how he liked it. 2 sugars, splash of cream, prepared his lunch, ironed his shirts while he showered, and kissed him goodbye at the door. I did the math last night. Couldn't sleep. Just sat at the kitchen table with my calculator, adding it up like evidence in a trial I'd never get to prosecute. 13,170 lunches, 13,870 loads of laundry that smelled like cologne I never bought him, 13,870 times I chose to believe the obvious lies. Carol, I blinked. Mark was standing in front of me now, Jennifer still attached to his arm like a decorator crab. His eyes, Paul's eyes, that same gray-blue that used to look at me with something that might have been love, were impatient. "We need to talk about the house," he said. Not, "How are you holding up, Mom?" Not, "I'm sorry for your loss." The house. "Mark, your father just died 3 days ago." "I know, Mom." He scratched the back of his neck. Paul used to do that when he lied. Mark inherited the tell. "But Rebecca and I have been thinking. And honestly, you don't need all that space anymore. It's a big house, 5 bedrooms. Just you rattling around in there." Jennifer squeezed his arm supportively. Her nails were painted black, funeral-appropriate black. "We thought," Rebecca chimed in, finally looking up from her phone, "that it might be better for everyone if you considered downsizing. There are some really nice senior communities in Beaverton. My aunt lives in one. They have bingo on Thursdays." Bingo on Thursdays. My house, the house Paul and I bought in 1987 for $89,000, the house where Mark learned to walk, the house with the Japanese maple tree Paul planted in the backyard when Mark was born, the house now worth $520,000, according to the Zillow estimate Mark had probably already looked up, reduced to Thursday bingo. "I'm 60, not 90, I said quietly. "Mom, be reasonable." Mark's voice had that edge now, the one he used in his dental practice when patients didn't floss. "Rebecca and I could really use the help. My student loans are killing us, and with the new equipment I just bought for the office." He kept talking. I stopped listening. Because over his shoulder, I saw my sister Evelyn talking to Jennifer, laughing. Actually laughing, 3 feet from our dead brother-in-law's grave. Evelyn caught my eye and had the decency to look away, but not before I saw something in her face I'd seen before, back in 1984 when I'd announced my engagement to Paul. She'd wanted him first. The funeral director approached, clipboard in hand, Rain spotting his cheap suit. "Mrs. Jensen, the lawyer is ready to see the family now. Mr. Patterson said it's important. Something about the will reading being moved up due to unusual circumstances." Mark's face brightened. "Already? I thought that took weeks. Apparently your father left specific instructions." the funeral director said, looking uncomfortable. Mr. Patterson said there's a clause that needed to be addressed immediately. Something about conditions that were signed by both your parents in 2021. March 2021. I remembered now. Paul had woken me up early on a Tuesday, told me we needed to see Patterson about protecting the house. He'd been secretive about it, almost nervous. I'd signed papers I barely read because I trusted him. What a joke that turned out to be. What kind of clause? Rebecca asked, suddenly very interested. The funeral director shrugged. Mr. Patterson said he'd explain everything at his office. 4 o'clock today. He said it was urgent. I looked at Paul's casket, still open, his face waxy and wrong under the funeral home makeup. Part of me wanted to reach in and shake him awake, demand answers. The other part wanted to spit in his face. Fine, I said. 4 o'clock. Mark and Rebecca exchanged a look. Jennifer whispered something in Mark's ear. Evelyn checked her watch. Nobody asked if I needed a ride. Nobody offered to sit with me. They just scattered to their cars like roaches when you turn on the kitchen light, leaving me standing in the rain by the grave of a man who'd apparently called his mistress the wife he always wanted, for God knows how long. The funeral director lingered. Mrs. Jensen, can I get you anything? Water? A moment alone? I'd like my necklace back, I said, staring at Jennifer's retreating figure. But I don't think that's on your service menu. He smiled sadly. No, ma'am. That one you'll have to handle yourself. Patterson and Associates Law Office, 4:17 p.m. The office smelled like old paper and expensive coffee. Mr. Patterson, silver-haired, bow-tied, the kind of lawyer who still used a fountain pen, sat behind his mahogany desk, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mark and Rebecca took the 2 chairs directly in front of the desk. Evelyn grabbed the chair by the window. Jennifer, uninvited and unashamed, stood behind Mark with her hand on his shoulder. I got the folding chair they pulled from the closet. Thank you all for coming on short notice, Patterson began, opening a thick file. I'll be direct because Paul's instructions were very specific about timing. The will is straightforward in most respects. However, there is what we call a conditional clause that was added in March of 2021, signed by both Paul and Carol. Mark leaned forward. What kind of condition? Patterson looked at me over his reading glasses. Mrs. Jensen, do you remember signing an addendum regarding the disposition of the primary residence? I nodded slowly. Paul said it was to protect the house. He didn't explain much else. That's because the full terms were sealed until his death, Patterson said. He pulled out a separate document, this one with a red seal at the bottom. The clause states that should anyone attempt to pressure Mrs. Jensen into selling or transferring the primary residence at 1847 Maple Street within 3 years of Mr. Jensen's death, the entire estate, including all bank accounts, investments, insurance policies, and property deeds, will be frozen and placed into an irrevocable trust managed by Mrs. Jensen alone. Silence. The kind of silence that has weight and texture. What does that mean? Rebecca asked, her voice sharp. Patterson looked at her mildly. It means that any attempt to coerce, manipulate, or legally compel Mrs. Jensen to sell her home will result in the complete forfeiture of all inheritance rights for any involved parties. The estate is valued at approximately $1 million, including Mr. Jensen's life insurance policy. Mark's face went white. But that's... Dad wouldn't... Your father was very clear about his intentions, Patterson interrupted. He came to me in February of 2021, quite distressed, and said he wanted to ensure his wife was protected from vultures, his exact word, in the event of his death. Jennifer's hand slipped from Mark's shoulder. There's more, Patterson continued, flipping to another page. Mr. Jensen also left a sealed letter for Mrs. Jensen, to be opened only in my presence. Carol, would you like me to read it aloud or... Aloud, I said. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from underwater. Everyone should hear this. Patterson broke the seal and unfolded a single sheet of Paul's law firm letterhead. His handwriting, messy, hurried, filled half the page. Carol, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the lies, the betrayal, the years I stole from you by being a coward. I need you to know, Jennifer was a mistake, a stupid, selfish mistake that I ended 8 months ago. She didn't take it well. She's been threatening me, saying she'd go to Mark, turn him against you, take everything we built. I signed that clause because I finally understood what you've always been. The only person who ever truly loved me. Not my money, not my status, just me. Protect yourself from them, Carol. Don't let Mark or Evelyn or anyone else take what's yours. You earned it with every lunch, every load of laundry. Every night you pretended not to smell the perfume. I was wrong about what I wanted. I was wrong about everything except you, Paul. Patterson folded the letter carefully and set it on the desk. Nobody moved. Jennifer's face had gone from tan to gray. That's not... He didn't end anything. We were together until... According to Mr. Jensen's phone records, which I have copies of, Patterson said calmly, he blocked your number on May 14th, 2023, 9 months ago. There were 247 attempted calls from your number after that date. He never answered. This is insane, Mark said, standing up. Dad was clearly not in his right mind. We can contest. You can try, Patterson said. But the clause was signed when Mr. Jensen was of sound mind and body, witnessed by 2 independent attorneys and filed with the county. It's ironclad. And given that you asked your mother about selling the house approximately... He checked his watch. 3 hours and 14 minutes after your father was buried, I'd say the conditions for activation have been met. Rebecca grabbed her purse. We're leaving. Mark, this is bullshit. Your mother probably manipulated. Mrs. Jensen never saw the final version of the clause until today, Patterson said. Paul was very careful about that. I stood up slowly, my legs shaking. I think we're done here, I said. Mark looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I always had been. Mom, you can't actually... Get out, I said quietly. Mom, get out! My voice bounced off the wood-paneled walls. Patterson flinched. Evelyn's eyes went wide. Jennifer bolted first, heels clicking down the hallway. Rebecca followed, already on her phone. Evelyn hesitated by the door. Carol, I didn't know they were going to... You laughed at his funeral, I said. At my husband's funeral. With his mistress, 3 feet from his grave. Don't pretend you didn't know exactly what you were doing. She left without another word. Mark stood there for a long moment, jaw clenched, Paul's gray-blue eyes full of something ugly. This isn't over, he said. No, I agreed. It's not. He slammed the door hard enough to rattle the diplomas on Patterson's wall. Patterson and I sat in silence for a full minute. There's something else, he finally said. Something I didn't mention in front of them. My stomach dropped. What? He pulled out another envelope, this one thicker. Paul had me hire a forensic accountant last April. He suspected Jennifer had been extracting money from his accounts. He was right. He slid a spreadsheet across the desk. Numbers, dates, transfer amounts, $89,000. $89,000. Transferred from Paul's business account to an account in Jennifer's name over the course of 6 months. Jesus, I whispered. There's more, Patterson said grimly. Paul also attempted to change the beneficiary on his $750,000 life insurance policy in September. He wanted Jennifer listed as the primary. My hands went numb, but he couldn't complete the change without your signature as co-owner of the policy. He never asked you, so the change was never processed. Jennifer Cole is not entitled to a single dollar from that policy. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. Does she know? I asked. Not yet, Patterson said. But she will when the insurance company sends the official notification, probably within the week. I stood up, gathering my purse, my coat, the tattered remains of my dignity. Mr. Patterson, I said at the door, if someone wanted to. Explore legal options regarding that $89,000 in fraudulent transfers. What would you recommend? He smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. I'd recommend documenting everything and waiting for the right moment to strike, he said. Revenge is a dish best served cold, Mrs. Jensen, and something tells me you've been cold for a very long time. I drove home in the dark, windshield wipers fighting the Portland rain, my mind spinning through 38 years of blind loyalty and 13,870 lunches and the weight of a pearl necklace I'd never wear again. When I pulled into my driveway, my house, my life, I sat in the car for 20 minutes just breathing. Then I went inside, made myself a cup of tea, and sat at the kitchen table with Patterson's documents spread in front of me like battle plans. The blue lunch container sat in the cabinet above the sink. I'd washed it this morning out of habit, before I remembered I'd never need it again. I took it down, held it for a moment, then threw it in the trash. It made a satisfying thunk when it hit the bottom. Tomorrow, I'd start making calls. The forensic accountant, a private investigator, maybe even a journalist or two, if it came to that. But tonight, for the first time in 38 years, I went to bed without setting the alarm for 5:30 a.m. because there was no lunch to make, no lies to ignore, no man to serve, just me, the sound of rain on the roof, and a clause that might just save my life. The calls started at 6:47 a.m. the next morning. I was sitting at the kitchen table, still in my bathrobe, drinking coffee that tasted like freedom, when my phone lit up with Mark's name. I let it ring. Then again at 7:03. Again at 7:22. By 8:15, he'd called 12 times. I finally answered at 8:47, mostly because the buzzing was giving me a headache. Mom. His voice was tight, controlled. The dentist voice. We need to talk about yesterday. About what happened at Patterson's office. I think everything was pretty clear, I said, watching the rain streak down the kitchen window. You can't seriously be doing this. Freezing me out of Dad's estate over a conversation? That's insane. I didn't freeze you out of anything, Mark. Your father did, 3 years ago. Because apparently he knew something about you that I was too blind to see. Silence on the other end. Then, Jennifer's just a family friend. She was there to support. She wore my necklace to your father's funeral, I said. The one he gave me for our 30th anniversary. The one she was screwing him in when he gave it to her instead. More silence. Look, he finally said. Rebecca and I are in a tough spot financially. The dental practice has expenses you wouldn't understand. Equipment costs, staff salaries, insurance. And with Dad gone, we were counting on my house, I finished. You were counting on pressuring me to sell my home so you could pay for your mistakes. It's not like that. Then what's it like, Mark? Explain it to me like I'm one of your patients who doesn't floss. He sighed. That put-upon sound I'd heard 1,000 times when he was a teenager. The house is worth over $500,000, Mom. You're sitting on a gold mine while Rebecca and I are drowning. Is it really so terrible that we asked you to consider downsizing? You asked me 3 hours after we buried your father. The timing was bad, I admit that, but the question is still valid. I stood up, walked to the cabinet, pulled out the blue lunch container I'd thrown away last night. It was sitting on top of the trash, right where I'd left it. You know what I did every morning for 38 years? I asked. Mom, I don't see how... I made your father lunch. Every single day. Turkey sandwiches with the crusts cut off because he said they bothered his jaw. Apple slices in lemon water so they wouldn't brown. A napkin with a note that said something encouraging. 13,870 times. That was your choice, Mark said quietly. His words hit me like a slap. You're right, I said. It was my choice, just like this is my choice. Don't call me again until you're ready to apologize. Not for asking about the house, for everything else. I hung up before he could respond. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. Bluebird Cafe, 10:30 a.m. The detective's name was Samantha Torres, 45 years old, former Portland PD, now running her own investigations firm out of a cramped office in Southeast. Patterson had recommended her with the kind of enthusiasm that suggested they'd worked together before. She sat across from me in a corner booth, nursing black coffee and reviewing the documents I'd brought. The forensic accountant's report, the insurance policy paperwork, printouts of the $89,000 in transfers. This is good, she said, tapping the spreadsheet. Really good. Your husband documented everything. Dates, amounts, account numbers. And these transfers weren't small enough to hide. Jennifer got greedy. Can we get the money back? I asked. Maybe. Depends on how she spent it. But more importantly, Torres leaned forward, this establishes a pattern of financial abuse and fraud. If we can prove she was manipulating Paul, isolating him, controlling access to accounts, that's elder abuse. That's criminal. Paul wasn't elderly, I said. He was 63. Doesn't matter. Anyone over 60 qualifies in Oregon. And if we can prove she was planning to benefit from his death. Torres let the sentence hang. My stomach turned. You think she killed him? I think it's worth investigating. Heart attack at 63 isn't unusual, but combined with the insurance policy changes, the money transfers, the relationship timeline, it's suspicious enough to warrant a deeper look. She pulled out a small notebook, flipped to a blank page. Tell me about the 8 months before he died, she said. Was he stressed, behaving differently, taking any new medications? I thought back to last spring. Paul had been jumpy, checking his phone constantly, startling when I walked into rooms. I'd assumed it was work stress. He was drinking more, I said slowly. Scotch before bed, every night. He said it helped him sleep. Who bought the scotch? I blinked. I don't know, it just appeared in the cabinet. Torres made a note. We'll want to test any remaining bottles, if there's anything left. There was a half-empty bottle of Glenfiddich 18 in the cabinet above the stove. Paul's special occasion scotch that had become his nightly ritual. I'll bring it, I said. Don't touch it more than necessary. Chain of custody matters if this goes anywhere legal. Torres closed her notebook. I'll start with Jennifer's background, employment history, previous relationships, financial records. I have a contact at the bank who can expedite the subpoena for her account activity. How long will this take? 2 weeks for preliminary findings, but Carol... She looked at me seriously. If this goes where I think it might go, you need to be prepared for ugliness. Your son is involved with this woman. Your sister was friendly with her at the funeral. This is going to blow up your family. My family blew itself up, I said. I'm just documenting the explosion. Home, 2:15 p.m. I was sorting through Paul's home office when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Evelyn standing on my porch, holding a casserole dish covered in aluminum foil. Behind her, I could see her car in the driveway, engine still running. Quick visit then. Hit and run. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Carol. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I brought you some chicken tetrazzini. Thought you might not be cooking much. I'm fine, Evelyn. Can I come in? Just for a minute? I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked past me, setting the casserole on the entry table, looking around the house like she was appraising it for auction. Mark called me this morning, she said. He's very upset about the will situation. I'm sure he is. Carol, he's your son, your only child. Don't you think you're being a little harsh? I closed the door, leaned against it. Did you know Paul was having an affair with Jennifer? Evelyn's face flickered, just for a second, but I caught it. I suspected, she admitted, but it wasn't my place to... You laughed with her at the funeral, I said. At my husband's funeral, you stood there laughing with the woman who was sleeping with him. That wasn't your place either, but you did it anyway. She had the decency to look uncomfortable. That was. I didn't mean for it to look. Why do you hate me so much? The question came out before I could stop it. What did I ever do to you? Evelyn's face hardened. You really don't know? No. You took him, she said simply. Paul. I met him first. At that Christmas party in 1984. We talked for 2 hours. He asked for my number. And then you showed up in your little red dress and your perfect hair, and suddenly I didn't exist anymore. I stared at her. That was 40 years ago, Evelyn. Some things don't expire, she said. Some things just sit there, rotting, reminding you every family dinner and holiday that you came in second place for the one thing you actually wanted. So you sided with his mistress at his funeral, I said flatly. That's your revenge? Helping destroy what's left of my family? I'm trying to help Mark, Evelyn said. He's drowning in debt, Carol. The dental practice is failing. He owes over $200,000 in student loans and equipment financing. Rebecca's threatening to leave him if he doesn't figure something out. That's not my problem, I said. He's your son. He's a 34-year-old man who smiled when his father's mistress kissed him at the funeral. My voice cracked. He's a man who asked me to sell my house 3 hours after we put Paul in the ground. He stopped being my son the minute he chose her side over mine. Evelyn's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. Mark and Rebecca were planning to let you live in the house after they bought it. They were going to give you the guest house, let you stay on the property. But now, with this trust nonsense, get out. Carol, get out. She grabbed her purse, moved toward the door, then paused. You always thought you were better than everyone else. Better than me, better than your own sister. But look at you now, alone in this big house, driving your husband into another woman's arms because you were too busy being a martyr to actually be a wife. The words were designed to hurt, and they did. But they also crystallized something I'd been feeling since the funeral. You're right, I said quietly. I was a martyr. I martyred myself for people who never deserved it. But that's over now. And Evelyn? Take your casserole with you. I don't eat food from people I don't trust. She left the dish on the table anyway, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I waited until her car was gone, then threw the casserole directly into the outside trash can. No telling what she'd put in it. Paul's office, 4:30 p.m. I'd been avoiding this room since he died. Now I went through it systematically, drawer by drawer, file by file. In the bottom drawer of his desk, hidden under old tax returns, I found a manila envelope labeled JC Private. Inside, printed emails. Dozens of them. The first one, dated March 2021. Paul, you promised you'd leave her. You said once Mark was settled, we could be together. I'm not getting any younger. I need to know this is real. His response. It's real. I just need time. Carol doesn't suspect anything. Be patient. Another one, June 2023. I saw the insurance policy papers on your desk. You're really going to do it? Make me the beneficiary? Yes. You deserve security. I'll handle Carol's signature, except he never did, because he couldn't forge my name, and he knew I'd never sign willingly. The last email, dated May 10th, 2023, 4 days before he blocked her number. Paul, I know you're avoiding me. I know you're having second thoughts. But I want you to think very carefully about what happens if you try to end this. I have emails, photos, evidence of every penny you spent on me. If you think you can just walk away, you're wrong. I will destroy you. I will destroy your practice, your reputation, your marriage. Everything. Choose wisely. It was blackmail. Pure, simple, textbook blackmail. And Paul, terrified, had responded the only way he knew how, by building a legal fortress around me and cutting her off completely. He'd tried to protect me. Too little, too late, and in the stupidest possible way. But he'd tried. I sat there for a long time, holding those emails, feeling the weight of secrets and lies and the horrible possibility that Samantha Torres was right. What if Jennifer hadn't accepted being cut off? What if she'd decided that a dead Paul was worth more than an alive one who'd changed his mind? My phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on after Evelyn left. Text from Mark. Mom, please. We need to talk. Can I come over tomorrow? I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I saw the second text, sent 3 minutes later to a group chat that included Rebecca and someone labeled J. Cole. She's not budging. We might need to go the legal route after all. Find out if we can challenge the trust on mental competency grounds. My hands started shaking. They were planning to have me declared mentally incompetent. My own son was conspiring with his father's mistress to take everything I had. I screenshot the text, forwarded it to Torres, then blocked Mark's number entirely. Then I went upstairs, pulled the scotch bottle from the cabinet, sealed it in a plastic bag with gloved hands, and set it by the front door for Torres to collect in the morning. If they wanted war, I'd give them war. But this time, I'd be the one setting the terms. The toxicology report came Thursday morning. Torres slid it across her desk in the cramped Southeast Portland office. The paper smelled like photocopier toner and bad news. Zolpidem, she said. Ambien. Concentrated doses in the scotch bottle. Enough to cause severe drowsiness, disorientation, respiratory depression, especially in someone taking blood pressure medication. My hands went numb. Someone poisoned him. Someone was drugging him, Torres corrected carefully. Whether it directly caused the heart attack or just made him vulnerable. That's harder to prove in court. But Carol, this is criminal. Attempted murder at minimum. I stared at the chemical breakdowns, the lab signatures, the clinical language that translated to, my husband spent his last months being slowly poisoned by a woman who claimed to love him. Can we prove Jennifer did it? I asked. We're building that case. Torres pulled another document. I pulled her pharmacy records through a contact at CVS. Jennifer had an Ambien prescription filled April 14, 2023, 30 tablets. Claimed insomnia, then she refilled it May 3rd, another 30, then June 1st, 60 tablets total. That's a lot. It's a suspicious amount for someone who only needed sleep aids. But here's what really matters. Torres turned her laptop toward me. Grainy black and white surveillance footage showed Jennifer at a liquor store counter, sliding a black credit card across to the cashier. She appears in footage from 3 different stores buying Glenfiddich 18, your husband's exact brand. I watched the video loop. Jennifer smiled at the cashier, tucked the bottle into a canvas bag, walked out. She was buying his scotch, I whispered, and presumably dosing it before it ever reached your house. Crushed Ambien dissolves easily in alcohol. Paul probably never tasted the difference, especially if he was already drinking to cope with stress. Torres pulled yet another file from her desk. This one was thicker, held together with a black binder clip. I also dug deep into Jennifer's background, and Carol. This isn't her first time. She spread documents across the desk like evidence at a crime scene. Jennifer Marie Cole, born March 1988 in Eugene, Oregon. Never married, no children, but in 2019 she was investigated in connection with the death of a boyfriend. Marcus Chen, age 61, retired software engineer, died of a prescription drug overdose in his home. Jennifer was living with him at the time. My stomach turned. What happened? The case was ruled accidental. Chen had a prescription for OxyContin after back surgery. Investigators found empty pill bottles in the trash, assumed he'd been abusing his medication. But Torres pointed to a detail in the police report. His prescription had been filled exactly 2 weeks before his death. 90 pills. The coroner found only 3 pills worth in his system. The other 87 pills were never recovered. Jennifer took them, I said. Jennifer took them. And 6 weeks after Chen's death, she collected $200,000 from his life insurance policy, where she was listed as the sole beneficiary. Then she moved to Portland, got her personal training certification, and started working at the gym where she met Paul 18 months later. I felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. There's no way to prove it now, Torres admitted. Chen was cremated within 3 days of death. His family didn't push for deeper investigation. Case closed. But Carol, the pattern is unmistakable. Jennifer targets older men with money. She ingratiates herself into their lives, gets added to insurance policies. And then, things happen. She's a serial killer, I whispered. Legally? No. Not without proof that holds up in court, but morally, ethically, practically? Torres closed the folder. Yes. Absolutely, yes. I drove home in a fog, Torres's words echoing in my head. At home, I sat in Paul's office surrounded by his papers, his secrets, his last desperate attempts to protect me. I faced the hardest decision of my life. I could take everything to the police. The toxicology report, Jennifer's history, the emails, the insurance fraud. I could burn her entire life to the ground and watch her go to prison. But doing so would expose Paul's affair publicly. Every detail, every lie. It would destroy what little remained of his reputation. Mark would see his father dragged through the mud. Our neighbors would know. Our friends would whisper, and Mark would never forgive me for it. I opened my laptop and pulled up Jennifer's Facebook profile. Public. No privacy settings. Apparently she had nothing to hide. Her most recent post from 2 days ago. Missing someone very special today. Paul Jensen taught me what real love looks like. Forever grateful for the time we had. Rest in power, King. 234 likes. 67 comments offering condolences to her. To Paul's mistress. While I, his actual wife of 38 years, sat alone in the house we'd built together, invisible. I scrolled back through months of photos I'd never seen before. Jennifer and Paul at fancy restaurants in downtown Portland. Jennifer wearing jewelry I didn't recognize. Gold bracelets, diamond earrings. Jennifer and Paul at a ski lodge in government camp. His arm around her waist, both of them laughing like teenagers. The dates on the photos made me physically ill. December 25th, 2022, Christmas Day. While I'd been home cooking dinner for 3, Paul had been with her. March 12th, 2023, our anniversary. I'd made his favorite pot roast. He'd said he had to work late. May 18th, 2021, Paul's birthday. I'd baked him a cake. He'd eaten one piece and left for drinks with clients. Every significant date in our marriage, he'd been somewhere else. With someone else. I found a video from July 2022. Jennifer had filmed Paul blowing out candles on a birthday cake while she sang Happy Birthday, off-key. His expression in that moment, pure, unguarded, almost childlike joy, was something I hadn't seen on his face in decades. Maybe ever. He'd loved her, not the way she loved his money, but in his own broken, selfish way, he'd actually loved her. And when he'd finally tried to end it, to come back to reality, she'd killed him for it. The doorbell rang at 6:15 p.m., interrupting my spiral. Through the peephole, I saw Mark standing on the porch. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled dress shirt, eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept. Behind him in the driveway, Rebecca sat in their car, staring at her phone as always. I opened the door, but kept the security chain latched. "What do you want?" I asked. "Mom," his voice cracked. "I need to apologize. For everything. For the funeral. For asking about the house. For all of it. I was wrong." "Who told you to say that? Rebecca? Jennifer? Your lawyer?" He flinched like I'd slapped him. "Nobody told me. I mean it. I've been thinking about what you said. About the lunches. About the 38 years. And tears welled in his eyes. I took you for granted. I took Dad for granted. And now he's gone and everything's falling apart and I don't know how to fix it. Part of me, the part that had made 13,170 lunches, the part that still remembered him as a gap-toothed 7-year-old, wanted desperately to believe him. But I'd seen the text message. The group chat where he'd discussed having me declared mentally incompetent. "You planned to have me evaluated for dementia," I said quietly. All color drained from his face. "That was... Mom, I wasn't serious. Jennifer suggested it and it was a stupid idea. I never would have actually gone through with it." Get off my porch, Mark. Mom, please. You chose her side. At your father's funeral, you let his mistress kiss you while I stood there alone. 3 hours later, you asked me to sell my home. And then you conspired with her to have me declared insane so you could steal everything I have. My voice stayed eerily calm. Those aren't mistakes. Those are choices. And I'm choosing not to forgive them. She's not his mistress anymore, Mark said desperately. Dad's dead. It's over. Can't we move forward? She killed him, I said. The words hung in the cold March air between us. Mark stared at me like I'd grown a second head. What? I reached through the gap in the door and showed him the toxicology report, holding it close enough for him to read but not close enough for him to grab. He read it. His face went from white to gray to almost green. This doesn't mean Jennifer. She bought his scotch, multiple times. I have surveillance footage. She had an Ambien prescription that she burned through in 8 weeks. I pulled out my phone, showed him Torres's email with the pharmacy records attached. And your girlfriend? She has a dead ex-boyfriend in her past. Marcus Chen, 2019. Drug overdose. She collected $200,000 in life insurance and moved here 6 weeks later. Mark grabbed the doorframe like he might fall. This can't be. Your father tried to make her the beneficiary on his life insurance policy, $750,000. But he needed my signature to complete the change. He never asked me because he knew I'd say no, so Jennifer never got the payout. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw a stranger staring back. She was going to kill him and collect, but he cut her off first, and I think she killed him anyway, out of spite. Mom, stop. Mark's voice broke completely. You're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. Jennifer wouldn't. She's not. She's using you, I said, just like she used your father. And when you stop being useful to her, when the money runs out or when she finds someone better, she'll move on to the next target. Rebecca honked the horn from the driveway. Mark jumped like he'd been shocked. I have to go, he said. Yes, I agreed. You do. I watched him stumble back to the car like a man walking through a nightmare. They drove away, Rebecca already yelling at him about something I couldn't hear. That night, I found one more thing I'd missed during my earlier searches. In the back of Paul's desk calendar, tucked between May and June, was a birthday card. The envelope was addressed to me in his handwriting. The postmark said, May 3rd, my birthday. But he'd never given it to me. Inside, his familiar messy script. Carol, I don't deserve you. I never did. But I'm trying to fix what I broke. If something happens to me before I get the chance, I need you to know I loved you. Even when I was too stupid and selfish to show it. Even when I was destroying us. You were always the one. P. I sat on his office floor and cried for the first time since he died. Not for him, not for our marriage, but for the life I could have had if he'd been honest. For the family that never really existed. For the woman I'd been who'd wasted 13,870 mornings on a man who'd been lying to her face. When I finished crying, I stood up, washed my face in the bathroom, and called Torres. I want to move forward, I said. All of it. The police report. The full investigation. Everything. I don't care what it costs or who it hurts. Jennifer needs to pay for what she did. Are you absolutely sure? Torres asked. Because once we start this process, there's no going back. Your family will be in the news. Your marriage will be dissected publicly. Every detail of Paul's affair will become public record. My family is already destroyed, I said. My marriage was a lie. Let's at least make sure the person who destroyed it all goes to prison. Torres was quiet for a long moment. Okay, I'll contact Detective Morrison at Portland PD first thing tomorrow morning. He specializes in elder abuse cases and suspicious deaths. With what we have, the toxicology report, Jennifer's history, the insurance fraud, the pattern, he'll open a formal investigation. After I hung up, I went to the kitchen and made myself scrambled eggs and toast. Nothing fancy, just food. But I ate at the table, sitting in my chair, not standing at the counter like I'd done for years while making everyone else's meals. And I didn't set a place for anyone else. For the first time in 13,170 days, I was cooking only for myself, and it felt like freedom. Detective Morrison looked like someone's disappointed grandfather. Gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, cardigan under his police jacket. But his eyes were sharp when he reviewed Torres's file across the table at the downtown precinct. This is substantial, he said after 20 minutes of silence. Toxicology report, Pharmacy records, surveillance footage, prior victim with similar MO, Mrs. Jensen, I'm opening a formal investigation into your husband's death. Relief hit me so hard I had to grip the edge of the table. How long will it take? I asked. Depends on cooperation. We'll need to interview Jennifer Cole, your son, possibly exhume your husband's body if we can get a court order. He looked at me seriously. This will get ugly. Are you prepared for that? I'm already living through ugly, I said. I want justice. Morrison nodded. We'll start with financial records. If Jennifer was stealing from your husband, we need documentation. Bank statements, credit card bills, any transfers you can find. I have most of it, Torres said, sliding another folder across. Paul kept meticulous records, probably because he suspected something was wrong toward the end. Morrison flipped through pages, his expression darkening. $89,000 in 6 months? Jesus. And she tried to get herself listed on a $750,000 life insurance policy? My husband needed my signature to complete the change, I said. He never asked. I think he realized what she was by then. Smart man. Morrison closed the folder. Okay, here's what happens next. I'm bringing Jennifer in for questioning tomorrow. Voluntary for now, but that won't last long. I'm also requesting her full financial records, phone records, medical records. If she lawyers up immediately, that tells me something. What about my son? I asked quietly. Morrison's expression softened. Mark's not a suspect, but he may have information he doesn't realize is important. I'll need to interview him separately. After the meeting, Torres drove me home. We sat in my driveway for a moment, engine running. You did the right thing, she said. Then why does it feel so wrong? Because you're about to destroy your family to save yourself. That's never easy, even when it's necessary. I went inside to an empty house that felt bigger and colder than before. Jennifer's arrest happened faster than I expected. Morrison called me at 7:15 a.m. on Saturday. We brought her in for questioning at 6. She showed up with a lawyer, refused to answer anything. But Carol, we got a warrant for her apartment. What we found. You need to sit down. I was already sitting. What did you find? Cash. $63,000 in cash, hidden in shoeboxes in her closet. Designer clothes with tags still on, worth at least $20,000. And, he paused, a life insurance application with your husband's forged signature. She was trying to fake the paperwork even after he cut her off. My hands went numb. That's fraud. That's multiple felonies. We arrested her 2 hours ago. She's being arraigned Monday morning. I hung up and sat in silence for 10 minutes. Then my phone exploded. Mark, what did you do? Mark, Jennifer just got arrested because of you. Mark, this is insane, Mom. You've lost your mind. I didn't respond. 20 minutes later, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Mark, red-faced, pacing on my porch. I opened the door, didn't invite him in. You had her arrested, he said, voice shaking. Jennifer is sitting in jail right now because she murdered your father, I said calmly. That's not proven. That's just your theory. It's the police's theory now, too. They found $63,000 in cash in her apartment, Mark. Money she stole from your father. They found forged insurance documents. They found evidence of a pattern, another dead boyfriend in 2019. Mark's face crumbled. She told me about Marcus. He had a drug problem. It wasn't her fault. He had 90 OxyContin pills that disappeared. She collected $200,000 and moved here 6 weeks later. I stepped closer to the door. Your girlfriend is a con artist at best, a serial killer at worst, and you're so desperate for her attention that you can't see it. I love her, he said. The words hit me like a slap. You love her, I repeated. The woman who poisoned your father, the woman who wore my necklace to his funeral, the woman who tried to steal your inheritance. That's who you love. She didn't do those things. The police have evidence that says otherwise. And here's what's going to happen, Mark. Jennifer is going to prison. And when she does, she's going to blame you. She's going to say you knew, that you helped her, because that's what people like her do when they're cornered. His face went white. I didn't know anything. Then you better hope the police believe you, because right now, they're looking at everyone close to her, including you. I closed the door while he was still standing there, mouth open. The next call came from Evelyn. Carol, what have you done? Her voice was shrill. Jennifer called me from jail. She's hysterical. She says you framed her for murder. I didn't frame anyone, I said. The police found evidence. They made their own decision. This is because you're jealous. You can't stand that Paul loved someone else. Paul was being poisoned, Evelyn. Sleeping pills in his scotch. For months. Jennifer bought the scotch. Jennifer had the pills. Jennifer has done this before. My voice stayed flat. And you helped her isolate me. You laughed with her at the funeral. You told Mark I was being unreasonable about the house, so don't call me playing innocent. Silence on the other end. I didn't know, Evelyn finally whispered. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. I hung up. 30 seconds later, Rebecca called. Carol. Her voice was different, smaller. Can I come over? Alone? Rebecca arrived 20 minutes later. No designer purse. No perfect makeup. She looked exhausted. I let her in. Made tea neither of us would drink. I need to tell you something, she said. Something I should have said months ago. I waited. Jennifer came to our house in November, before Paul died. She wanted to talk to Mark about his father's plans for the future. She said Paul was going to leave you, that he wanted to make sure Mark was on his side when it happened. My stomach clenched. What did Mark say? He believed her. He thought his dad was finally going to be happy. Jennifer showed him photos, text messages, made it seem like this grand love story. Rebecca twisted her wedding ring. But then Paul died, and Jennifer started talking about the insurance money, about how it should have been hers, about how you were standing in the way of what Paul really wanted. She was grooming Mark, I said. She was grooming both of us. She offered to help Mark with his debt if we helped her get access to your assets. Said Paul had promised her everything and you were being spiteful by blocking it. Rebecca looked at me with tears in her eyes. I told Mark it was wrong, that we should leave you alone. But he was so deep in debt, so desperate. How much does he owe? I asked. $212,000. Student loans, equipment financing, business loans he took out to keep the practice afloat. She wiped her eyes. We're going to lose everything, Carol. The house, the practice, everything. And Jennifer knew that. She used it. I sat back, processing. Why are you telling me this now? Because I don't think Jennifer killed Paul out of love. I think she killed him because he was about to expose her, because he cut her off and she panicked. Rebecca pulled out her phone, and because I recorded our last conversation with her. She hit play. Jennifer's voice came through the speaker, tinny but clear. Mark, your mother is the problem. Once she's out of the way, either declared incompetent or otherwise removed, you inherit everything. The house alone is worth $500,000. Think about what that would do for your debt. Otherwise removed, I repeated. Rebecca nodded. She was suggesting you have an accident. I didn't realize it at the time, but now, with everything the police found, she was planning to kill me too. Yes, Rebecca's voice broke, and I almost let it happen because I was too scared to tell anyone. I called Morrison immediately. He took Rebecca's statement over the phone, asked her to come to the station that afternoon with the recording. After she left, I sat in my kitchen alone. Jennifer hadn't just killed Paul. She'd been planning to kill me, and she'd nearly convinced my own son to help. Monday morning, Jennifer's arraignment was all over the local news. Local woman charged in suspicious death of lover. Portland police investigate possible serial killer. Teacher's widow uncovers husband's murder. I watched the coverage from my living room. Jennifer in an orange jumpsuit, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked smaller, ordinary. The judge denied bail. Flight risk and danger to the community. Jennifer screamed at the judge. Had to be restrained by bailiffs. Mark wasn't in the courtroom. I checked his social media. He'd deleted every photo of Jennifer, changed his relationship status to single. He texted me that afternoon. I'm sorry, for everything. You were right. I didn't respond. Not yet, because sorry wasn't enough. But it was a start. That evening, Patterson called. Carol, there's something else you should know. Paul's business accounts. I've been reviewing them with the police. There's another $120,000 missing. Transfers that predate the $89,000 Jennifer took. Where did it go? We're still tracking it. But I think Paul might have been paying her off, trying to buy her silence before he cut her off completely. So Paul had known. He'd known she was dangerous. He'd tried to pay her to go away, and when that didn't work, he'd tried to protect me with the trust clause. Too little, too late. But he'd tried. But I went to his grave for the first time since the funeral. Stood there in the rain, looking at the temporary marker. I'm getting justice for you, I said out loud. Even though you don't deserve it. Even though you lied to me for years. Because no one deserves what she did to you. The rain kept falling. I drove home, made dinner, ate alone, and for the first time since Paul died, I slept through the night, because the woman who'd destroyed my family was in a cage, and I'd put her there. The letter from Paul arrived 3 weeks after Jennifer's arrest. Not a new letter, an old one. Patterson found it in a safe deposit box Paul had rented under a different name, one even I didn't know about. He left instructions, Patterson explained in his office. If he died under suspicious circumstances, I was to open box 247 at First National and deliver the contents to you. It took me this long to find it. The envelope was thick, sealed with red wax. Paul's handwriting across the front, for Carol, to be opened only after my death. PJ. My hands shook as I broke the seal. Inside, a 4-page letter and a flash drive. Carol, if you're reading this, I'm dead. And if Patterson followed my instructions, it means my death wasn't natural. I need to tell you everything I should have told you years ago. I met Jennifer in March 2012 at the gym. She was 24. I was 52. I knew it was wrong from the first conversation, but she made me feel young again. Alive. Like I mattered. You and I had become roommates by then, polite strangers sharing a house. I told myself the affair was harmless, that you didn't care anymore. I was wrong about everything. By 2015, Jennifer started asking for money. Small amounts at first, then larger. She said she had debt, family problems, medical bills. I believed her because I wanted to believe her. In 2019, she told me about Marcus Chen. Said he'd been abusive, that his death was a blessing. I didn't question it. I should have. Last year, she started pressuring me to divorce you, to make her my beneficiary, to secure our future together. When I hesitated, she showed me what she'd been collecting. Photos of us together, emails, bank records of every dollar I'd given her. She said if I didn't cooperate, she'd send everything to you, to Mark, to my business partners. I paid her $120,000 to go away. She took the money and demanded more. In January, I found empty pill bottles in my gym bag. Ambien. I don't take sleeping pills. When I confronted her, she smiled and said, "You've been taking them for months, Paul, in your special scotch. How do you think you've been sleeping so well?" I realized then that she'd been poisoning me, slowly, waiting for my heart to give out so she could collect the insurance money I'd stupidly tried to give her. I cut her off completely. Changed my passwords, blocked her number, filed the trust papers with you to protect the house. I thought I'd won. But Carol, if you're reading this, it means I was wrong. It means she found a way. On the flash drive is everything. Videos of us together. I'm sorry. Bank records showing the payments. Emails where she explicitly threatens me. And a recording I made of her admitting she'd been drugging me. Take it to the police. Make sure she pays for what she did. And Carol, I'm sorry for all of it. For wasting the years we had. For choosing a predator over the only person who ever actually loved me. You deserved better than me. Paul. I sat in Patterson's office for 20 minutes, not moving, not speaking. Finally, the flash drive? He handed it to me. I reviewed it with Detective Morrison this morning. It's comprehensive. I watched the videos at home with Torres and Morrison present. They'd insisted on being there, said it was protocol for evidence handling. The first video showed Paul and Jennifer in a hotel room. The camera was hidden, probably in Paul's jacket pocket. Their conversation was chilling. Jennifer, when are you going to make me the beneficiary, baby? You promised. Paul, I need Carol's signature. She's co-owner on the policy. Jennifer, then forge it. Or better yet, once she's gone, you won't need her signature at all. Paul, gone? Jennifer, accidents happen, Paul, especially to lonely old women living in big houses. Morrison stopped the video. That's conspiracy to commit murder, premeditation. This seals the case. There were more videos. Jennifer counting cash. Jennifer talking about Marcus Chen. He was so easy to manipulate. Old men are always grateful when a young woman pays attention. The last video was dated January 10th, 5 days before Paul died. Paul confronted Jennifer in a parking garage. Paul, I know you've been putting pills in my scotch. I found the bottles. I'm going to the police. Jennifer, no, you're not. Because if you do, I'll destroy you. I'll tell everyone you sexually assaulted me. That you manipulated me, isolated me from my family. I'll cry on camera and the whole city will believe me. Your son will hate you. Your business will collapse. You'll die in prison. Paul, you can't prove any of that. Jennifer, I don't need to prove it. I just need to accuse you. That's how it works now, Paul. Women are always believed, even when we're lying. She smiled directly at the hidden camera like she knew it was there. Paul, stay away from me. Stay away from my family. If anything happens to me, Carol knows everything. She'll destroy you. Jennifer, Carol knows nothing. She's been blind for 12 years. She'll stay blind. The video ended. I sat there, numb. She knew he was recording, I said. Morrison nodded. And she didn't care. That's sociopathy. Complete confidence in her own invincibility. Can you use this in court? Torres asked. Absolutely. It's admissible. Paul recorded it in a public space, the parking garage. No expectation of privacy. And combined with the toxicology report, the financial records, Rebecca's recording. Morrison closed his laptop. Jennifer Cole is going to prison for the rest of her life. Mark showed up at my door that evening. I almost didn't answer, but I saw through the window that he was alone. No Rebecca. No lawyers. Just my son, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks. I opened the door. I saw the videos, he said, voice hoarse. Detective Morrison showed me. All of them. I didn't respond. I need you to know. I didn't know. About the poisoning. About Marcus Chen. About her threatening to kill you. I swear to God, Mom, I didn't know any of it. But you knew about the affair, I said. He nodded, tears streaming. Jennifer told me in November. Said Dad was finally going to be happy, that you two had been miserable for years, and this was his chance at real love. He wiped his face. I believed her because I wanted Dad to be happy. Because I thought maybe he deserved a second chance. At my expense. Yes, he broke down completely. At your expense. I chose his happiness over yours because it was easier. Because I didn't want to deal with the messy reality that my father was a cheater and I was helping him. I let him cry. Didn't comfort him. Just waited. I'm selling the dental practice, he finally said, using the money to pay off my debts. Rebecca and I are separating. Not divorcing, just taking time apart. She's going to therapy. I'm going to therapy. We're trying to figure out who we are without the financial pressure. Good, I said. And I want to ask if there's any way you could forgive me. Not now. I know I don't deserve it now, but someday. Maybe in a few years, after I've actually changed, after I've proven I'm not the person I was. Mark. I cut him off. Do you remember the blue lunch container? He blinked. What? The blue plastic container I packed your father's lunch in every morning for 38 years. Do you remember it? I guess? I threw it away the night after his funeral. After Jennifer kissed you and you smiled. After you asked me to sell my house. I threw it in the trash because I realized I'd spent 13,870 days making lunch for a man who was lying to my face. And you, his son, my son, were helping him lie. Mark's face crumbled. I don't know if I can forgive that, I continued. I don't know if I want to, because forgiving you means accepting that my own child valued money and his father's happiness over my dignity, over my safety. Mom. But, I held up a hand. I'm not closing the door completely. You want to prove you've changed? Then change. Go to therapy. Fix your marriage. Pay off your debts without asking me for help. Live like an adult who takes responsibility for his choices. I will, he said desperately. I promise I will. And Mark? Jennifer told you I'd be otherwise removed. Rebecca recorded it. You heard it, and you didn't warn me. You didn't call the police. You didn't do anything. His face went white. I didn't think she was serious. Yes, you did. You just didn't care enough to protect me. I stepped back. That's the thing you need to fix. Not the debt, not the practice. The part of you that was willing to let your mother die so you could inherit money. I closed the door. Heard him sobbing on the porch. Didn't open it again. Evelyn called the next morning. Carol, I need to apologize. No, I said. You need to listen. You spent 40 years resenting me because I married the man you wanted. You sided with his mistress at his funeral. You told Mark I was being unreasonable when I refused to sell my house. You helped isolate me from my own son. I didn't know Jennifer was dangerous, a killer, planning to murder me. I laughed bitterly. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. Because it was easier to blame me for your unhappiness than to accept that Paul chose me and you need to move on. Silence. I'm 60 years old, Evelyn finally whispered. I wasted 40 years hating you for something that wasn't your fault. Yes, I agreed. You did. Can you forgive me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Maybe, I said, in about 40 years, when you've spent as much time earning forgiveness as you spent earning my resentment. I hung up. Jennifer's trial was set for August. Morrison said it was a formality. She'll take a plea deal, 25 to life probably. Her lawyer knows we have her dead to rights. But I wanted the trial, wanted every piece of evidence presented publicly, wanted the world to see what she'd done. Your choice, Morrison said. But it'll be hard. You'll have to testify. They'll put Paul's affair on display. The defense will try to make you look vengeful. Let them try, I said. That night, I cooked dinner for the first time in weeks. Real dinner. Chicken, roasted vegetables, a glass of wine. I set one place at the table, sat down, ate slowly, tasting everything. And when I was done, I didn't immediately wash the dishes or clean the kitchen or prepare for tomorrow. I just sat there, in my house, in my life, finally belonging to only myself. Outside, rain pattered against the windows. Inside, for the first time in 40 years, I felt something like peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. And that was enough. Jennifer took the plea deal. 28 years to life for second-degree murder, attempted murder, fraud, and extortion. No possibility of parole for 20 years. She'd be 64 years old before she could even apply. Morrison called me with the news on a Tuesday morning in July. She'll be transferred to Coffee Creek Correctional Facility next week. It's over, Carol. I hung up and sat at my kitchen table, waiting to feel something. Relief, satisfaction, victory. Instead, I just felt tired. 40 years of marriage, 13,870 lunches. All of it ending in a courtroom with a woman in an orange jumpsuit being led away in handcuffs. Paul had been dead for 6 months. It felt like 6 years. Mark came by that afternoon. I'd started letting him visit once a week, supervised by my own boundaries. He'd sit on the porch. I'd sit inside by the screen door. We'd talk for exactly 30 minutes. Baby steps toward something that might eventually resemble forgiveness. I heard about the plea deal, he said. No preamble. Yes. How do you feel? Empty, I admitted. I thought justice would feel different. Mark nodded. He looked thinner, older. The dental practice had sold for enough to clear his debts with $30,000 left over. He was working as an associate at someone else's practice now, making a third of what he used to make. Rebecca had moved out. They were legally separated, talking once a week in couples therapy. I've been thinking, he said carefully, about the lunch container. The blue one you threw away. I waited. I remember it now. Really remember it. You'd write notes on the napkins. Have a great day. You've got this. Stupid little encouragements that Dad would pull out at lunch and just throw away without reading. His voice cracked. I watched him do it once. We were having lunch together at his office, and he opened the container, saw the note, crumpled it up without even looking, and tossed it in the trash. I asked him what it said, and he just shrugged. Said, "Your mom's mom stuff. You know how she is." I felt something twist in my chest. I laughed, Mark continued. I laughed at how you tried so hard to make him happy. And now I realize that was me. That's who I was. Someone who laughed at your love because it was easier than acknowledging it. Why are you telling me this? I asked quietly. Because I need you to know that I see it now. All of it. What you gave. What we took. What I lost by being too stupid and selfish to appreciate it. He wiped his face. And I need to know if there's any chance at all, that you'd let me try to earn back even a fraction of what I threw away. I looked at my son through the screen door. Saw the gray in his hair that hadn't been there 6 months ago, the lines around his eyes, the weight of guilt he'd carry forever. You can come inside, I said. He froze. What? Come inside. Sit at the table. Have coffee. He opened the door like he was entering a church, sat in the chair that had been Paul's for 40 years. I poured 2 cups of coffee, set them down. We sat in silence for a long time. This doesn't mean I forgive you, I said finally. This means I'm willing to see if forgiveness is possible. There's a difference. I'll take it. Mark said. I'll take whatever you're willing to give. Rebecca called me the next week, asked if she could visit. She showed up with flowers, wildflowers from the farmer's market, not expensive roses, sat on the porch where Mark usually sat. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness, she said. I'm here to say, thank you. For what? For showing me what real strength looks like. For standing up for yourself when everyone told you to sit down and be quiet. She twisted the stems of the flowers in her hands. I'm leaving Mark. Officially. Filing for divorce next month. I wasn't surprised. It's not because of what happened with Jennifer, she continued. It's because I realized I married him for the wrong reasons. Security, status, a dental practice wife's life. I never loved him. Not really, and he never loved me either. Does he know? Yes. He took it better than I expected. I think he's relieved. She smiled sadly. We're both getting the chance to start over, thanks to you. After she left, I sat on the porch alone, watching the sunset over the Japanese maple Paul had planted 34 years ago. The tree had survived, grown strong despite neglect. Maybe I would too. 3 months after the plea deal, I did something I'd been planning in secret. I donated $50,000 to the Oregon Coalition Against Domestic Violence, in Jennifer's name. Let her be remembered, I told the director, for funding the organization that helps women escape the kind of predator she was. The donation made the local news. Widow turns tragedy into hope. I got letters from women all over Portland, survivors of financial abuse, emotional manipulation, violence. They thanked me for speaking up, for fighting back, for refusing to disappear. I kept every letter. Mark and I had dinner together for the first time in November. He brought grocery bags. We cooked together in the kitchen, pasta, salad, bread, simple food. I forgot you used to cook, I said, watching him chop vegetables with the knife skills he'd learned in college. You taught me, he said. Remember? Sunday afternoons when I was 12, you said every man should know how to feed himself. I did say that. We ate at the table, 2 place settings, 2 glasses of wine. It felt strange, fragile, like something that could shatter if either of us said the wrong thing. But it also felt like possibility. I'm thinking about going back to school, Mark said. Getting certified in nonprofit management. Maybe working with organizations that help families recover from financial abuse. I looked at him. That's a big change. I need a big change. I need to do something that actually helps people instead of just extracting money from them. He set down his fork. I can't undo what I did to you. But maybe I can help other people not make the same mistakes I did. Maybe, I agreed. We didn't hug when he left, didn't make plans for next week, but he washed the dishes before he went, and that felt like enough. On the 1-year anniversary of Paul's death, I went to his grave alone. The permanent headstone was in place now. Paul Jensen, 1961-2024. Husband, father, no flowery epitaphs. No lies about devotion or love. Just facts. I stood there for a long time, hands in my coat pockets, breath visible in the January cold. I don't forgive you, I said out loud. I don't think I ever will. But I understand you now. You were weak and selfish and you made terrible choices. And one of those choices killed you. The wind blew through the cemetery, rustling the bare branches. But you tried to protect me at the end. With the trust, the videos, the evidence. You tried. So I'm going to honor that by actually living. Not just surviving. Living. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Paul, I'm selling the house. Not to Mark. Not to Evelyn. To a young couple with 2 kids who reminded me of us when we were young and stupid and thought love was enough. I was buying a small condo downtown. 2 bedrooms, a balcony with a view of the river, space for me and nobody else. I was going to travel. Italy, Greece, all the places I'd postponed for 40 years. I was going to take cooking classes and join a book club, and maybe, someday, let someone take me to dinner without wondering what they wanted from me. I was 61 years old. I was free. And for the first time in my life, that freedom felt like a gift instead of a punishment. I walked back to my car, started the engine, and drove toward the rest of my life. Behind me, Paul's grave disappeared in the rearview mirror. Ahead, the city lights sparkled like possibilities. I turned on the radio, and I smiled.